Hello and welcome to Low Budget Gaming, and today I have something a little different. I wanted to discuss a bit more about some hardware related stuff, but obviously specifically focused on gaming and gaming on a low budget as well. Now I feel that AMD is the future of gaming, at least the near future, and I'll give you some of my reasons why. Now this year AMD has been very successful with their Ryzen processors, not so much with the Vega graphics cards. And just a few days ago there was a big announcement, and Intel and AMD are teaming up to create Intel's 8th generation CPUs, which will use Radeon graphics card AMD. So an Intel processor with Radeon graphics. And obviously this is because Intel's own Intel HD graphics are quite rubbish and they needed somebody to give them better graphics, so they have gone to AMD Radeon. This could be bad news for Nvidia, and I'll explain why. Now as far as computing and gaming is concerned, Intel and Nvidia dominate. They also have the majority of the market share, revenue, etc. However, AMD has come very strong this year with the Ryzen processors and has sold a lot, and their processors are good. They have a lot of cores and they are quite affordable as well, and very good as well, power efficient. So this was a bit of a surprise, and they seem to have come back into relevance with their processors. Now the graphics cards were doing fine until recently, when the cryptocurrency mining happened, as well as the launch of Vega, which wasn't particularly successful. But the standard cards are still pretty good, 500 series or the 400 series, based on their GCN architecture. So those cards are really nice, and when the prices do come down, they should still offer a decent value. Now I've personally only been using AMD products for a long time, 10-12 years, although in the last 6-7 years I haven't bought a new processor. I've just upgraded to a Ryzen processor. But as far as graphics are concerned, I was always happy with the AMD graphics. I had a 5770, then I had a R9 280 and also an R9 380, which I'm using currently. And I was interested in the Vega 56 as well, or perhaps the RX 580 when the prices come down. And the Vega 56 is still a pretty good card in my opinion, even though it hasn't launched well. The 56 is still pretty good. It is better than the 1070 in most regards. So as soon as we have a partner card with custom fans, etc., and once the prices come down, then I would think about that, because that would be an ideal upgrade for me, because I prefer playing on 1080 and getting as good graphics as possible. So what it seems is happening now is AMD is spreading itself everywhere. So whether you like it or not, AMD is everywhere, and this is sort of bad news for both Intel and Nvidia. As far as gaming is concerned, we should be looking to move to AMD as well. At least that's my opinion, because in the next coming years they might dominate even more than we think. Obviously right now Nvidia is the king of GPUs, so pretty much everybody seems to have an Nvidia GPU, and people like me with the Radeon graphics are in the minority. However, things will change, and I'll explain why. Now, there have been a few developments that should help AMD along. First of all, we have the implementation of DirectX and Vulkan technologies, APIs, for the newer games coming out. And a lot of people are starting to work with AMD. And although Vulkan and DirectX are supported on NVIDIA cards, but initially they tend to work better on AMD cards, Radeons. So you have a lot of new game developers and game companies working on these technologies with AMD. So that is one of the things that I've noticed. For example, you have Bethesda and AMD have teamed up, and if you remember last year, Doom 2016 had Vulkan support and it ran flawlessly, and a lot of people were impressed by its performance, very high frame rates, etc. And this year you had Prey and Wolfenstein 2. This was a surprising game, and this had Vulkan support from launch. In fact, over on YouTube, Joker from Joker Productions, he did a video explaining how Wolfenstein 2 runs amazing on AMD RX Vega, and I saw this video and his numbers are quite impressive. Like, he was going on the highest settings on the Vega 56 and it was matching almost the 1080. It was a few frames below the 1080, but it was almost close, and we are talking 100 FPS on 1440p at ultra settings. Now the other reason why I say AMD is future for gaming is if you look at the two main consoles, the Xbox and the PS4, both of them use a AMD Jaguar processor, and as a result you have games being developed for the consoles. Now we know that consoles are primarily what the big AAA publishers at least are focusing on. They tend to optimize their games on the consoles first, and in some cases they don't even care, it seems, for the PC versions. So the game tends to come out well on console, and because they make more money on console simply. So I have some numbers to show for both EA and Ubisoft. So these are the numbers for EA, Electronic Arts, and as you can see, this green bar represents the consoles, and blue is PC, and yellow orange is mobile. So if you see, orange and blue, PC and mobile combined, is still less than the consoles, and it seems to be getting bigger yearly. For Ubisoft, it's even bigger. If you look at this chart, you have the red bar here is PC, the green is the last gen consoles, gray is PlayStation, the dark blue is Xbox One, and the light blue is others. I don't know what others are, maybe mobile and stuff. So PC is only 12% in 2015, 2016 it was only 14%, and 18% in 2017. So it has increased, but look at the PlayStation, and even the Xbox is outdoing the PC for Ubisoft. So obviously they will be making the game for consoles, because obviously the money is in selling the consoles. So, and the consoles, whether you like PlayStation or Xbox, they both have an AMD processor. Obviously there are more reasons why AMD is, in my opinion, the future for gaming. AMD's FreeSync technology. Now FreeSync monitors are getting cheaper and cheaper. Now Nvidia has their own technology called G-Sync, and G-Sync is quite expensive. So I just did a quick search on Amazon and I found a decent monitor here. This is the Acer gaming monitor XFA 240, and this is a 24-inch 1080p monitor, 144 Hz refresh rate, 1 millisecond response time with AMD FreeSync, and this is just under $200 right now. So under 200 for a 144 Hz 1080p 24-inch monitor, and it has quite a lot of functions as well. So for under 200 you can get a high refresh rate monitor, 1 millisecond response time. This is an esports monitor basically. Now obviously the GPU market is completely dominated by Nvidia right now, but if AMD were to target the entry level and the mid-range gamer, they can quickly push out Nvidia into just the high-end sector. Now if you look on YouTube, and all the tech YouTubers and all the big guys, they tend to use the 1080s and the 1080 Ti's to their benchmarks and things like that. Like most of us, we can't afford those cards. Those are very high-end cards, and the vast majority of us are using a 1060 or a previous gen 960 type card and below. I have an R9 380, and that is slightly better than the 960. So a decent 1080p card. Now this is the Steam hardware survey, and as you can see, all the cards are dominated by the GeForce Nvidia cards, and that is nothing surprising. However, look at the most popular cards, the biggest percentages. You have the 960, the 750 Ti still got 12% in October of 2017. Obviously the 1070 wasn't released, so you won't see it here. Then you have the 1050 Ti, 1060, 1050, and 1070. Here is the 1070. This is what I would call the high-end card and beyond. So the 1070 only has a 1.8% market share, and if you go further down, the 1080 has a 0.9% market share. And where is the 1080 Ti? 1080 Ti is down here, and it's got a 0.39. So combined, the three high-end cards have just over 3% market share. So obviously that is a very small number. So if AMD target the entry level and the mid-range graphics card, now for example, I mentioned the 960. The 960 is the most popular card. I have an R9 380, and that is slightly better than this card. So I have probably the best, most popular card right now, equivalent to that, and it is a better card. So if it wasn't for the cryptocurrency mining right now, AMD has a good card, a better card than Nvidia at almost similar prices. So if you have the 960, the 390 is better than that. You have For example, even the 1070, if the Vega 56 is cheaper than that, if they price it better, it is a better card. For the 1050 Ti, you could have something like the 570. Obviously right now the prices are high, but if you are looking for good performance, smooth performance, and you pair it up with a FreeSync monitor, you will get a much better performance out of that. And depending on how the next generation of the consoles are made and what processor they go with, they might go with this new Intel AMD thing or just the AMD APUs, because they have also released a mobile series of processors as well, the Ryzen Mobile. So AMD is everywhere, it seems, and AMD has a master plan to sort of take over. And with them working with game publishers and game makers and having both the consoles in their pocket, AMD is in pretty good shape, even though it may not appear on the surface. And yeah, so I think if you are a high-end gamer, if you can afford the 1080s and the 1080 Ti's, then okay, Nvidia is fine. But if you are a mid-range gamer like me, then I think AMD is the better option right now. Pair it with a nice Ryzen processor like an R5 1600, Ryzen 5 1600, with a RX 580 or perhaps a Vega 56 when the prices come down. Yeah, those are my thoughts on this. I've been sort of thinking about this for a while, and I just decided to share this because it's an interesting thing, and I've been keeping an eye on the industry and how things are panning out, and I think the future is AMD. So yeah, let me know what you think, what your thoughts are on this, and I'll see you in my next video.